Hi, welcome to the John Gaunt broadcast. Whether you're watching on the TV, on your phone, on your mobile, or whether you're listening to one of the podcasts afterwards, you're all welcome. Big question today, and it's breaking news, of course, is it all over for Keir Starmer? Or is this the beginning of the end, if you follow what I'm saying? What's your view? Why do I say these things? Well, let me explain to you. He's had a pretty bad weekend. Did you see him panicking at that Conservative conference held in a phone box in Scotland, where he started calling reform far right? Now, there are many things, but they are not far right. I know Nigel Farage very well, been in his company on many occasions. He is not a racist. He is not far right. He is a conservative, a proper conservative. And I'm not a member of Reform, although I do think they're the only hope we've got at the moment. But at the weekend, Starmer went for them. Instead of actually addressing the nation and telling us what he was going to say to President Trump on Thursday, after Macron sneaked in the back door, there's a surprise. He instead went to Scotland and spoke to a few Tories, not Tories, Labour supporters, and it's hard to tell the difference these days, about what his vision of the future was. He was useless. This morning, he spoke to the United Nations via a satellite link. He was useless. He's got no charisma. He's got the charisma of a recycled brown paper bag. But is his leadership sinking? He was in a big trouble before the breaking news. The breaking news I'm bringing you now, and please, let's have your comments, is that the Labour MP Mike Amesbury has been jailed for assault. This could lead to a by-election, well, it should do, and a crisis for Starmer. You've seen the video. He basically sucker punches a guy outside his constituency office. When the guy falls down, he gets down and he digs him 5 more times. Now, I don't know what provoked him. The guy obviously did. But today, he has been found guilty of assault. But of course, in two-tier Britain, he's been given a 10-week prison sentence. Now, you might think, well, that's probably about right, maybe. Hold on a minute. 10 weeks with time off turns into 40% of that. So he'll serve about 4 weeks. That's before this early release scheme that his mates have introduced in Labour. He'll probably be out in a fortnight, right? He won't have time to change his underpants before he's back on the streets. How's that a punishment? I think he should have got 2 years. That's assault. That's what you would have got if you'd done it in the street. So it's two-tier justice, plus the fact he's now got a custodial sentence, right? If he had any respect, which he won't have, but if he had any respect to a backbone, he should resign immediately. Do you agree with him? He should resign and therefore trigger a by-election. But he won't. He'll hope, and he'll probably go on appeal now and hope it gets reduced to community sentence, in which case that'll take weeks. There won't be a by-election and Starmer will be let off the hook again. Because if there was a by-election now, let's face it, there's no way that Labour will win that seat. They could put an Iron Bevan up, dig him up and put him up for election. John Smith, Keir Hardie, any of those people, nobody could win that seat for Labour. Reform will win, and it will be a protest vote very early in Starmer's premiership. It will hold him beneath the waterline, which is why I've done a big caption of him today, drowning. I actually do think he's drowning. I don't think Keir Starmer likes doing the job. He certainly doesn't look very happy. I don't know whether he's keeping secrets and he finds it hard to talk about issues at the moment. I don't know what it is, but it seems really odd to me that he's got the top job in the country, but he doesn't really want to do it? Have you got a comment? Have you got a view on this, please? Should the MP, Mike Amesbury, I know it's breaking news, but should he resign? I say he should do the honourable thing and step down. Then we can have a by-election. If he doesn't step down, of course, his constituents can call for a recall. So effectively, he has to stand again, or effectively, he's finished anyway. But my point is, let's have some honour. Now, why else do I say he's drowning, he's sinking? Well, did you see his address today? It was shockingly bad. Again, he was reading off notes. He just hasn't got the charisma, has he, to stand there and speak to people. Now, the subject this morning was Ukraine. You'd think as a highly trained person, he would be totally on top of that, completely on top of it, and wouldn't have a problem, wouldn't need notes. He'd just be able to speak and say what he thought of the situation. But he couldn't. And that makes me wonder why. It makes me concerned. What on earth is he up to? Is he not happy? Is he not happy doing the job? Well, if he's not happy, he should stand down as well. It was just a shocking speech. And I guess Putin was quaking in his boots as he laughed at Starmer, because Starmer basically said, we're not going to let you get away with this. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. But Putin knows that Trump's not going to listen to him. It was just ridiculous. So let's look at Starmer's problems. And I'd like your views on this. I haven't got any comments yet. I don't know why. What's the problem today? Let's get your comments coming in, please. What I can't understand is this. He's got these problems, right? He's got the problem of Mike Amesbury, right? But let's look at his other problems. He still hasn't sorted out the suits and Lord Ali, has he? And why he was buying him stuff. He still hasn't sorted out Freebiegate. He hasn't really given us a proper answer for why he didn't give us the truth about the Southport killer when he knew what was going on. And people ended up going to prison. His approval ratings are the lowest ever, right, of any prime minister, right? He's got Rachel Reeves, his chancellor, who's lied on her CV, and it is lying. I know they're trying to say, oh, it wasn't the CV, it was just LinkedIn. It's the same thing, effectively. She lied, and not just once, many times. She lied more than Judas Iscariot. Yeah, was it Judas Iscariot? Before the cock crowed? Yes, that's what she did. And then you've got Jonathan Reynolds. He falsely claimed to be a solicitor, which is a criminal offence. If you say you're a brief and you're not, it's a criminal offence. You can be sent to prison for it. He was only a trainee. He never finished his law papers. He never finished his training. He's not a solicitor. All he's ever done since he left university was work in politics. Well, there's a surprise. That happens right across the House of Commons. None of them have had a proper job, which is why we're in the mess we're in. So we've got a lying chancellor. We've got a lying Jonathan Reynolds. We had another woman, Louise Haig. Do you remember her? The mobile phone lady. Oh, I've lost my mobile phone. Oh, I found it again, but I didn't tell the coppers, but I've been using it. Pardon? I think she's very lucky that wasn't turned into a criminal case as well. El Trainer on YouTube says Starmer looks like he's scared all the time, as if he's terrified of some news coming out against him. The latest speech he was reading off A4 paper. He's finished soon. Well, El Trainer, that's my view as well. I mean, that's what I was going to do a broadcast much later today, because I watched him this morning. I thought, oh, yeah, I'll think more about that and have a right pop later. Then Mike Amesbury got jailed for assault, although I think he'll appeal, but he should now stand down. And I thought, this ship is sinking. Look at the state of the economy. She's borrowed for us to get richer. Well, that hasn't worked. Look at the illegal immigrants coming across the channel. I thought they were going to stop the boats. Well, that hasn't worked. Look at the stabbings on the street. They were going to get the knives off the street. They were going to blunt the end of knives. Are they going to do that still? That hasn't worked. This government is a shambles. It's a boat going down, a ship going down. And meanwhile, they're trying to rearrange the deck chairs on the deck of the Titanic, which is Great Britain, by saying things like, we must define what Islamophobia is. Let's make a blasphemy law up just for Muslims. Meanwhile, Islamist nutters are still killing people right across Europe. I point you to what's happened in Germany. Why are these politicians so out of touch? And by the way, I'm not supporting the Tories. They'd be just as bad. Yesterday, was it, or the day before, I did a tweet and I did a show about President Trump. We need Trump in this country. And I said he'll sort out Ukraine. I had 30-odd thousand comments, most of them supporting me, but quite a few lefties, because I watched that Laura Kunsberg show yesterday. They had a panel where every guest was anti-Trump. Every guest. But so's the whole of the mainstream media. They are all in this bubble. They're denying what is happening, not only to our country, but the whole of Europe. And they're denying what's happening to the world. Trump's come along and he said, I'm going to sort out Israel and Hamas. You know, the terrorists who the BBC employed to make a weepy video. Yes, Hamas. And our BBC yesterday, and people said to me, well, you shouldn't watch it. Well, you have to know what the enemy's up to. They had a program yesterday, their main political program, where everybody was anti-Trump, led by the arch-lovey, himself, Stephen Fry. Do you remember Stephen Fry? Got done for credit card fraud when he was much younger. I think he's talented. He's funny. I quite like his wit. I do like his wit. But I hate his superior attitude, looking down his snobby nose at the rest of us. Well, he probably lives in a lovely house in London and in Norfolk. That's where his country residence is. And, of course, he's just become Sir Stephen Fry. He's part of this establishment bubble. Them and us. It is them and us, right? And then the Tories, they were all on the rob. They were all on the con. You can't trust them either. But Keir Starmer, let's focus on Keir Starmer. He surely holed underneath the waterline. He's surely got to go. He sat there. If you haven't seen this conference, Google it. He stood there talking to the United Nations about Ukraine, and he just couldn't do it off the cuff. You know, like Tony Blair, he'd stand up and do it. Trump would stand up and do it. He'd probably go too far. He'd probably claim he'd done everything. But at least it would be natural. If I employed Starmer as my solicitor, my lawyer in court, I'd be devastated. He couldn't talk his way out of a paper bag, let alone having the charisma of one. The man is useless. I'm almost feeling sorry for him. He is drowning, not waving. Remember that advert where the cartoon where she's licking the ice cream and she's, oh, look, they're waving. Yeah. What was that for? It was one of those ones like for cats or protection or fireworks. Don't switch the light on. Do you remember all those public information films? They were better than the bloody programs. But anyway, Simon Hatt, Peter Bleaksley, former Met Office police detective, has said that 10 weeks, I just saw this on the telly actually, Simon, is far too lenient a sentence. It should be in the region of 2 years, as he was beating the victim whilst he was helpless on the ground. People have died from less offensive action. Do you think that the Lord Hema will appeal this sentence? Yes. As being unduly lenient? No. I'm with you, Simon. I know what you're trying to say there. There was a guy in Coventry in a great bar called Mills's in Earlsden. It's not my favourite, but I go in there now and again for a drink. And there was some kind of altercation at the bar. This was a few years ago. And this guy turned around and punched him. Boom. One punch. The guy, he was a fireman. He fell back, the fireman, banged his head and died. And the woman who's on GB News, Michelle Dewberry, I think her dad or somebody related to her died in similar circumstances. So you've got to be really careful. But the bottom line is, when the guy fell over, he then dug him 5 more times. Now, I've got to be straight up with you, right? I did a similar thing at the Sony Awards many years ago, the year before I won all my Radio Academy awards. Some guy said something to me. I took my jacket off, I turned around and decked him. And then I did jump on top and give him another one. And then sense prevailed and I stopped. I thought I was going to lose my job. Thing is, he worked at Radio 5 and everyone thought he was a see you next Tuesday as well. So no one worried. But I was wrong. I was in the wrong. I should not have done that. But sometimes you lose the head, don't you? But what I'm trying to say, and I'm trying to just be absolutely honest with you, I wasn't an MP. After doing that, you can't carry on as an MP. Can you? Don't you have to resign? Chris Ashmore, afternoon, John. You're on the ball today. P.S. How do we train more Brits for the building jobs when we're not producing enough children? There's a quandary for you. Chris Ashmore, absolutely. I'm with you completely. There's all this nonsense about building more houses. Where are you going to get the workers from? Especially because we've stopped freedom of movement. And then we've got the people arriving who need houses. It's all pie in the sky, sixth form economics, Chris. Again, don't get me wrong. I don't think the Tories have got any plans. This country is going down. And I don't want to go down with Captain Starmer. Call me old-fashioned. That's not what I want to do. I wonder what secret he is holding back. He does look like a rabbit caught in the lights, doesn't he? There's no animation. I made what I thought was a funny joke today on Twitter. I said, we need a reboot. And there's a picture of Starmer, not a robot. I thought that was quite good. Oh, maybe not. Anyway, I'm here all week, twice on a Thursday. Graham Hatton, Joe and Petunia are those hilarious public information films of the 70s. Yeah, you're right. You're right. She was a big fat woman, wasn't she? It was like Beryl Cook, sort of cartoon style. Superb. They don't have them anymore, do they? I like the other one where the guy comes in. I think he ended up in the Young Ones as the sensible guy. And he goes to turn the light on, but the woman's going to be gassing herself. And, of course, it's natural gas, so therefore you can't gas yourself. But she didn't turn the oven off, right? So he comes in just about to turn the light on and goes, stop! Was that him out of the Young Ones? I think it was. I used to love them. Do you remember when Tom and Jerry was only on now and again when there was a technical breakdown? I think the whole world, I think youth, childhood was wrecked once we got the Cartoon Network or cartoons on all day. Kids don't know what it is to have a treat of a little bit of Tom and Jerry. Am I being a bit too nostalgic? Tell me what your views are. We can have a laugh as well as talk about serious things, about how Keir Starmer's taking us all down. I've got to say, I don't want to go down with Keir Starmer. What about you? Stop being naughty. No point in a double entendre when a single one will do. That's what I say. Slapping a bird's bottom. Breaking news. Keir Starmer statement on Ukraine. Pop, 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 pop. I think he's saying it was all hot air or something. That advert scared the living daylights out of me as a kid, says Sean Flynn. Do you mean the gas one? Yeah, that was a scary one, wasn't it? What about Charlie says? I like those as well. See, kids are missing out on this. This is why we've got a generation who are just on their phones all the time. The electronic babysitter. Right, let's move on. So we've got Rachel Reeves lying on her CV. Jonathan Reynolds, I don't know what his job, it's trade or something. And he reminds me of an old mate of mine, so I can't take him seriously anyway. Although I like my old mate, I don't like him. Somebody I was at university with, good lad, actually. He's claimed to be a solicitor when he wasn't one. And now the Labour MP Mike Amesbury has been jailed for assault for giving a guy a good... He did give him a good punch, I've got to say that. And he went down on him. Stop saying that, John. Stop using that phrase. He jumped down on... He knelt on him and then gave him 5 more in the face, right? It's all on video. It was a violent attack. I agree with Peter Blakesley, the ex-Met copper, who says he should have gone down for longer. He should. So the question is, as UK politics is heating up like this, can Starmer the Smarmer survive? Do you want him to survive? And how have we got a leader like that when the Americans have got somebody like Trump? Even if you don't like Trump, don't you have to admire him, that he's strong, he's dominant, he's an alpha male? See, I was saying that this weekend and yesterday, And loads of people saying, oh, you're a fanboy, you're this, you're that. And then there's all the sort of suggestions that you're homosexual because it's just all nonsense. Oh, and also I'm against all that kind of prejudice. Nothing wrong with being gay. But this thing about Trump, they can't cope. Joe Biden was in power for 3 years whilst Ukraine was killing their own kids, either by the Russians killing them or killing Russians. Thousands, maybe tens of thousands of people have died. Sleepy Joe Biden was in power. Did he do anything to stop it? And also Macron and his bunch of lily-livered Eurocrats. What did they do? What did Rishi do? Did we do anything to stop the killing? No, we didn't. We just let it go on. So then I'm not going to take morality lessons saying, oh, Trump's this, Trump's that. He's going to be this, whatever. He's been in power for 4 weeks. Today, by the way, is the three-year anniversary of Putin invaded. Now, I'm against Putin invading. He was wrong to do it. I condemned him at the time, and I condemn him now. However, it's happened. Trump's in power for 4 weeks. He's sorted out, well, beginning to sort out Hamas. Not that the BBC will like it. They'll have no one to make them new films. Where are they going to get the next weepy video from? Plus the fact, let me just talk about that, about Hamas and the BBC. They have all these people. Do you see that bit when they do BBC fact check? And it always reminds me of Fact Hunt. Got to be careful saying this. The Al Murray sketch, yeah? Do you know that sketch? Because it's like, who are they to check anything? They're the biggest bunch of bullshitters going. When I saw Laura Kunsberg, it was a parallel universe. Why didn't they ask me on? George Galloway. There must be loads of people they could have got on who would have given a different view just to saying, oh, no, I condemn him. He's wrong. He's totally and utterly wrong. He hasn't done it. All this. Oh, he's appeasing a dictator. How is he appeasing a dictator? All he's done is got Putin to the table. Now they're going to have a longer conversation, right? And try and get peace. He's done the same in Israel with Hamas, who are filthy, stinking terrorists. Never forget that, no matter how the BBC, they used to call Hamas, some countries prescribe them as terrorists. Some countries? What about you, the BBC? Why are you so scared of the T word, you bunch of CND-loving, rainbow jumper wearing, open-toed sandals, Birkenstocks, skinny dipping in Catalonia, lentil burger morons. A terrorist is a terrorist is a terrorist. But you get the terrorist's son on to do the weepy video. And then, yesterday, you don't dedicate a whole programme to slagging off Trump. And this is how they say Trump on the BBC. Trump. He's called President Trump or Mr. President. You show some respect for the office, you scumbags. And how come it's okay for you to be so left-wing, but if GB News dare to be the same towards the right, you're all doing an advertising blockade or you're trying to close them down? That's really fair, isn't it? Fact check. Fact hunt, more like, your views on that. So let's get back to Starmer, because that's what today's is meant to be. I wish we had a leader like Trump for all his faults. All his faults. Oh, and that's it. So Biden didn't do anything, nor did we or our European leaders do anything. Trump has now got Israel into a peace negotiation, although the way Hamas are behaving at the moment, I'd just say everything's off the table. Disgusting the way they killed those little babies in front of the mother. And then when they gave back the bodies, they got the wrong mother. No, it was a mistake. No, it wasn't. Let's see when they're all there with their masks on and the guns. These people, I'd call them animals, but that's an insult to animals, right? So, but at least Trump's moving that forward. He's moving forward, I say, in my opinion, as well, with the other big situation at the moment, which is the Ukraine. We've got to stop the killing. And then people say, oh, yeah, but how would you like it if somebody came into Wales and took Wales? Well, parts of Wales, I'd say, on you go. I'm only joking to all my Welsh friends. and the sheep. I think Wales is a great country. But the point is, it's a ridiculous analogy, or is it an analogy or metaphor? It's just ridiculous. If Zelensky, right at the beginning of this, had tried to call to a halt to this, it would have stopped. If NATO were not trying to expand into the east, it wouldn't have happened. And if the EU took this all seriously and weren't trying to get Ukraine into the EU, it wouldn't have happened. That doesn't excuse Putin at all. What Putin did was wrong. But here's the reality, and I said this months ago. Any peace negotiation will require Ukraine letting the land go that's already gone. And it will require Putin saying he'll never take any more. And it will require an American backstop. But if you want somebody, Roseanne, for example, Roseanne Barr, if you want her and her family in the American Midwest to pay for our defense, you've got another thing coming. We've been screwing the Americans for years. And now Trump's saying no more. You've got to pay an equal amount. So then, this weekend, Sunday, we had that woman, the education secretary. Have you seen her? She's another robot, just like Starmer. She speaks in short sentences so she doesn't drop herself in the... Right, that's her. She basically said, oh, we're going to up our defence budget. I can't tell you what, because Starmer is our supreme leader, and he is going to announce that on Thursday when he sees President Trump, right? So she says she wouldn't tell us the situation. Meanwhile, the robot Starmer, with his notes, is in Scotland giving a speech to a few of his Labour buddies, right? It was a question of where's Wally? Well, Wally was in Scotland. This is just ludicrous. And today, when he's talking about his pet subject, which is the Ukraine, and he's been big and bully bollocks about what he's going to do with Putin and Trump, he couldn't even speak without notes. What do you make of that? He's taken us, don't say down, but the ship is, see, what can he say? The ship is sinking. And it's the HMS Titanic. That advert scared the living. I've read that one. Reagan and Carter. Be careful, John. A grandmother had a visit from the old Bill because she said the Labour councillor should resign on a Facebook group. Yeah, I saw that story. I want to speak about it, but there's so much to talk about today. You're right. You're right, my friend. What a waste of time. And the snivelling little shits who went and knocked on the door. My dad was a copper. I'm just thank God we cremated him. Otherwise, he'd be spinning in his grave. He really would, about the state of the British police force. They were sort of cross between the Stasi and what do you call them? The Keystone Cops. Well, there's no sort of middle ground with Starmer, is there? Afternoon, John. Yes, Starmer is a sinking ship, as is Labour. But again, who would you trust to take charge of our country? Well, that's where I am, mate. I'm with you on that, Steve, all the way across the line. It'll be Farage, because there's going to be a by-election and they're going to swamp it. They're going to go, they'll be huge. I don't want Starmer, but only Labour MPs can get rid of him. Well, yes and no. We can build pressure in other ways as well. What will we get in his place? There's not an ounce of charisma in the entirety of the Labour front bench. No, you're right, Simon. I agree with you. I mean, who would you put in there? You've got Rachel Reeves, who speaks like that as well. You got that, what's her name? Disgrace to the working class, Angela Rayner. Yeah. Imagine her as the Prime Minister. Huh? Unbelievable. And then you've got the Education Secretary, Bridget Philippa, son. And then you've got the Chancellor in between. She's probably already said she's the Prime Minister on a CV. What do you reckon? It's not a CV, it's a LinkedIn. And there's nothing wrong with it. Stop it. Stop picking on her. Drop a like for Big John, people. Get the YouTube algorithm working for him. Yeah, well, that's what's got to happen. If you do like what I'm doing, please, wherever you can press like and share, whether it's on YouTube, if you're watching on the telly, or whether indeed it's on the podcasts, Keep pressing the like, or Facebook or Twitter. Spread the word. It's getting there. I'm very honest by what the figures are looking like. I'm very, very honest and very happy with the way it's building. But all of that help would be great. Also, if you want to become a member of my YouTube page, it's only 99p a month. Why don't you sign up for that today? That all helps. Not the money, but it helps the algorithm, as Slapping a Bird's Bottom says. And he says, at the same time, defund the BBC. Well, they've got to go. They've got to go. After this Hamas thing, they've got to go. And their clear bias, they've just got to be scrapped. I love the BBC for so much that it does. I worked for them for a long time as a freelance, but it isn't the BBC I joined. Now it's a bunch of lefty, common purpose, rainbow-laced idiots running it, right? Tofu burger eating. Starmer will be trumped, says Mark Bartello. Thank you, Mark. Boris is back in Ukraine, causing trouble again today. Good. How can Labour defend these scum killers? It's not rocket science. I wish I could have front row seats for when Starmer meets Trump on Thursday. It's going to be absolute box office. It certainly is. And did you hear he kept the Polish boss? He kept the Polish guy waiting outside for an hour and a half. He was late back or something. I was telling you about Mr. Grimes, my headmaster at Bluecoat School in Coventry. He was all right, bastard, right? He used to have a traffic light system on his doors. You'd sit outside, me and Chris Dickey normally, waiting to get the cane, and he'd hold you there. It would be on red, then it'd go to amber, and he'd hold you on amber for ages, just so you could really go, because you were scared he was going to cane you. But I think I told you the other week, he was a chicken. He never caned you. You got inside, and he let Billy Fenton do it, and Billy Fenton was on 250 embassy number ones a day, so he could only give you one slap, and then he was out of puff, and he liked me. So I've always had this charm. Starmer hasn't got a sturdy enough backbone to influence any other world leaders, says Mickey B. Hi, Mickey. Even North Korea King would walk Starmer on a leash. Yeah, did you see that cartoon? There's a cartoon today, and Trump has got Starmer on a leash. You're right. Yes, John, fact checking is a must. Do you remember when Maggie T said that the terrorist known as Nelson Mandela would never be allowed to visit the UK? That's a very good point. And there were Tory MPs. I think Burko was one of them who became the speaker, who was so anti the ANC and so anti Mandela. So you're right. History, you got to be careful. I agree. Which is why I don't agree with the death sentence for terrorism. I do agree with it for paedophiles, and especially when it's like the guy in Southport, when we know for a fact he killed those girls, right? String the bastard up, right? Same with Sarah Sharif's dad, who tortured her, yeah? He got 42 years. It's too long. He should have got about 40 inches of rope, and then bye-bye. It's the old Saddam shuffle. But I don't agree with it when it comes to politics. Oh, but that surprised you. Liars will always be found out, no matter how much they try to cover up things, says Mark. Starmer on a leash? No, I can't read the next bit, Mickey, but everybody else could have a look at it and then be disgusted and say, oh, that's terrible. But we're not going to read it out here at the moment. And also, I'm sure it's wrong. So the big question then is, will he survive? Can Starmer turn this around? There's no alternative within his party to take over. But in that speech today to the United Nations, he didn't look like he wanted to be there. And that was before he heard about this MP being sent, not down, to prison, right? How do Reform capitalise on this? Do you think Nigel Farage and his party could run the country? What's your view on that? And what's your view on all these people who just hate? They hate Trump. So, I mean, I found it amazing over the weekend. I had loads of support. To be honest with you, I don't care whether people agreeing with me or disagree with me. What I don't really like is when they start calling you a see you next Tuesday, because there's no wit or charm in it. You know, when I call them a silly boy, or say matron's calling, or have you had your medication, at least I'm trying to be a little bit humorous. But they're just like, yeah, it's funny. But I love triggering them. I can't tell you how many people today. I get paid by Twitter now. Did you know that? You can get paid by Twitter if you get a lot of interactivity. My wife, Lisa, said, what, you're getting paid for doing what comes natural, just arguing with people? I said, yeah, but it's only a pittance, love. I tell you what I haven't been paid by yet is YouTube, because I haven't hit the income threshold. So if you want to sign up and be a member, all of those little pounds, 99p's, will help. And also, if you want to help on a big scale, do what Pete Lisman did today. He bought me a coffee. Thank you, Pete. If you want to buy me a coffee, dead simple to do. I'll just put up the thing now. It's buymeacoffee.com/John Gaunt. Well, I've got to finish in a moment. I'm doing something today. What am I going to do? I was going to do something. I forgot what it was. Right. So let me just finish off with the last few things I want to say about that idiot. Can Starmer hold it together? Tories are in disarray. Is Farage ready to take over yet? What do you think is going to happen on Thursday? I'm like that guy who said earlier he'd love to be a fly on the wall. Starmer's going to come back with his tail right between his legs, isn't he? He's going to come back looking even more scared than when he goes. Yeah? Have you seen they've got white leather seats in his executive plane? I would make sure I put down a few blankets for the return trip. I think he's going to get beasted by Starmer, by Trump. And I think J.D. Vance is going to start the beating up the day before, because he's going to have a chat with him about freedom of speech. And no doubt he now knows about this lady who got the knock on the door from those two wimpy coppers for daring to criticize a councillor. God's sake. It's a wonder the riot squad aren't coming through me virtual screen windows. Okay, can I just say that as well? This background is not my house. It's a green screen, so you can project onto it. I should have put the visual that I've got today for the podcast up of Starmer drowning in the ocean with the boat on fire and behind him sinking. It's quite a nice one. Generated by, have you done that AI stuff? It's brilliant. You just go, if you're no good at art, right? I wish I'd had this at school. I was so crap at art. But all you do is you go, Starmer drowning in the ocean, cruise liner behind him stinking, right? And so then up comes the picture. And then he goes, do you want to put a red sky on it? Would you like the water to be more stormy? Red sky. I mean, for me, and I'm useless at technical things, right? Imagine if you had that when you were at school. Imagine when you had to write an essay. Write me an essay about Henry VIII's wife. I did my biography the other day. I had a look. What do they bring up about me? Somebody said there's a photo, an image of me, and it's not me, because I get mixed up with a guy called John Gaunt, who's from Gainesville in Florida. I went there once. It was at the time of the Gainesville Slayer. I'll talk about that another time. But he's a fiddle player in some sort of alternative rock band. In fact, I interviewed them once afterwards. But yeah, so I think I'm getting mistaken for him. So I'm going to say John Gaunt Wealth. I'm a multi-millionaire, according to that. But AI, my God, have you done AI? Have you played with it yet? I think shut up, John, shut up. But it's brilliant. You can get loads of great images. I don't think it's very good. I agree with, I was watching my old friend, Simon Le Bon, name drop. He was talking about that in Italy, about how AI is going to, Elton John's been talking about it as well, how it's going to basically scrape all the talent of these singers. So you'll be able to say, write me a song like Elton John, like Candle in the Wind, and it'll do it for you. Well, I'm not sure that's right. Are you? Because don't you want original talent? And I certainly want the people who've written the songs to get their just rewards. But playing with the AI this weekend, like I have been doing, it's a different world. It's a different world. Well, where are we now? Just done that one. John Farr. Hi, John, on Facebook. Just bought a coffee, mate. Thank you, John. Sorry it's not much, but I'll buy more when I can. Well, hold on. Don't you hate that when you just think you're going to sneeze, but all you've got is a chaffin stuck up your nose? John, don't worry about that. Everything helps. So thank you very much indeed. Then he says, great show as usual. Mickey B, Farage could be ready if government was a one-man band. He needs more credible people in the ranks to form a competent government, I think. I agree with you. El Trainer, Starmer's Scottish speech and comments on reform about them being far right is another nail in Labour's future. I agree. Because, again, he's attacking every person in Britain when he says that sort of stupid. Trainer says, let's hope so. Slapping Bird's Bottom says, let's hope so. I know it's not your house. You can't, the old Joanna with those fingers, John. No, I've got sausage fingers. My daughter's a brilliant pianist. I've never been able to play a musical instrument. I tried to play the flugelhorn. You know, when at school everyone gets an instrument, right? We're used to. That's another thing they've cut, isn't it? Which is wrong. Every kid should get the opportunity to learn an instrument or do drama or do art. I think it's important. But I was last in the queue, so I got a flugelhorn. What's a flugelhorn, you ask? It's a kind of cross between a French horn. I like a bit of French horn. So does Keir. Anyway, and a trumpet. That's what I got to learn to play. But I lasted about 2 weeks. I lasted longer than I did learning German, so I was quite pleased. There's already a YouTube channel where they get famous and deceased people to sing other people's songs. Oh, send me the link for that. I want to look at that. I bet that is sick. I don't mean sick as in great. You know, when kids say something's sick, they mean it's fabulous. There we go. Peter Stewart said, what AI platform are you using? What do you think this is? Somebody said that to me the other day. Oh, John, I want to be able to do a radio show like yours. How do you do it? Like, hang on a minute. I'm not on the dole anymore, right? But I'm scraping a living. You think I'm going to give away all my skills? Another bloke wants me to do a podcast course. Well, he said everything so far. I said, can you teach people how to do podcasts? Yes. But the essential thing he hasn't said is how much he wants to pay me. I think he thinks I should do it for free. Two hopes, Bob Hope and no hope. I love the way that people think the kind of skill I've got, or talent, whatever you want to call it, experience, isn't worth any money. You wouldn't say to a plumber, come and fix me bog. I'm not paying you, would you? Well, I might, but you know, it's wrong, is what I'm trying to say. So, Peter, I ain't telling you, is the bottom line there. You can use whoever you want, Pete. I'm not telling. I think I know who you are as well, Peter, but no, I'm not doing that. I've got to preserve some chance. Lisa's got me on a tight leash. She says, when are you going to make any money doing this? Right? When are you going to make any? She's down at our Roses at the moment, right? Because Rose has gone on her international European work. And she comes back, and then I'm going down for a few days. So in the next few days, you'll see me coming live from her kitchen. But she says, in fact, it was this morning, when are you going to start earning any money? And I say to her, oh, I've got my YouTube earnings. I'm up to £45.72p. You got to get to 60 before they pay you, right? I've got to do it by Friday. So I ain't going to do it. So there'll be another month where she's moaning, right? And I'm hardly going to get rich on £45.92. I know it's a cumulative thing. More videos you do, more people watching, etc., etc. But it is funny. It is funny. I wouldn't have used years ago. I used to get offered to go and do telly. That was 500 quid. I wouldn't get out of bed on a Sunday for that. Just nonsense. I wish I hadn't been like that. Mind you, I wish I had a pension. I wish I'd saved some money. I know I'm going to end up. I used to do that joke, didn't I? I used to say, Scooby-Dooby-Doo, big issue. That will be me. I can see that me ending up there, right? I used to make a joke with the kids as well. I used to walk from Warwick to Leamington, down the back of the river. And there's a bridge. I used to say to my girls, I'll end up living here. I quite fancy being a hobo. I was joking. I didn't want it to come true. It wasn't an ambition. Yes, I'm the singing Peter used to follow Keto. Yeah, hi, Peter. Well done. Thank you, mate. I hope you don't think I'm being stroppy. I'm not. But I just decided I've got to make some money. She's not nagging me. She wants me. She's always been supportive. But I'm living on her money. I can see why she's saying, can you try and get a few more listeners? Chris Ashmore's been serious. Looks like Musk and Trump are having a spat. Elon wants to meet Keir. Donald has said no. Well, I think that's probably right, actually. It's a bit like Zelensky, Chris. I want to be in the meeting. Shut up. You're not coming to the meeting until we've sorted out the parameters. I think that's perfectly okay. People saying, oh, he's selling out a sovereign country. No, he's not. He's just starting the negotiations. Johnny Boy says, I'll do a rewire for your house. £20,000. Well, as it's not my house and it's a virtual background, I'll have that then. You can pay me virtually. How about that? There we are. Where should we finish? You are. says Peter Stewart. You are what? I'm being stroppy, I think he thinks. Oh, I'm in the same boat as you. Repensions, etc. Me and you, Peter. We can beg on the streets of Glasgow and Edinburgh together. If it gets much worse, I'm going to move to California. I'm going to live in San Francisco. When I went to San Francisco, I couldn't believe it. Everyone lived in on the street. They all went there because it's a Democrat city, and they basically have a shopping trolley, and they just fall asleep next to the trolley because it's always warm. If you're going to be a hobo, I guess that's the best place to do. Peter says, I'm going to do busking. Good on you, mate. Good on you. He says, I'll run a business during the week and sing at the weekends. Good on you, Peter. We'll have you for the Christmas party if we're still going. All right. Look, we're joking and messing about now. It's the end. Thank you very much for contributing. Thanks for talking to me. Thanks for spreading the word. Please buy me a coffee. Please become a member of the YouTube. They're two different things. You go to my YouTube page, John Gaunt TV. It's 99p. There is a super fan. A few people have become super fans. That's $1.99, so it's hardly going to break the bank. But if you want to do the £5 contributions, you go to buymeacoffee.com. Then you'll get your name on the roll of honour. I'm going to make that also on the website. There's something for you to think about. I've set up my website again. Is there any point? Does anybody look at websites anymore? If you're on socials, as the kids call it, do you need a website? I'm not sure you do. I put all the videos there, but I'm not sure you need it. Oh, here's my old mate, David McGeechee. Hello, Livy boy here. Enjoyed it. Thank you, Dave. One of my oldest listeners and an extraordinarily generous man who's really helped me and, get this where it is today. Really generous. And also, there's another guy like that, Adam, who gave me the lights so you can see me. Oh, there's a shadow there, isn't it? Oh. So this is why I need a technician. I'm useless at this. But anyway, Adam looked after me as well. Adam, I really appreciate your help. And, of course, one of my oldest listeners, who I've only just learned how to say his name, Wojciech Koreski, right? He's given so many fivers. It's unbelievable. David McGeechee, he's from Livingston, Scotland. He says, "Nae bother, John, nae bother." Next time you're up in God's own country, you better check out Peter Stewart when he's busted and slip him a fiver, David. He's in a bad way, so he says. All right, that was a good show. Let's see what develops today. We'll be back on tomorrow. Might be a bit earlier tomorrow because I've got to get off to Oxford, but I really want to put the boot into Starmer. How is he going to react? That guy should resign. There should be a by-election. There won't be because they're all cowards. They're all sniveling little SH1TSs, aren't they? Scared of their own shadows. But what is Starmer hiding? Why does he look like a rabbit in headlights? Why can't he just talk? Look at me. No real script today. All off the top of my head. Been bloody entertaining, though, hasn't it? I've entertained myself. I listened back to one of my shows the other day. I thought, blooming hell, you're quite good at this, John. You ever thought about trying to make a living out of it? Yeah, but unfortunately, the people who own the radio stations and TV don't want me. I'm blackboard. Anyway, enough rubbish. I'm back tomorrow. Until then, if you've got kids, you know what I'm going to say. Give them a kiss. Give them a hug. Don't forget to tell them you love them. And thank you for helping me. And, the most important thing, my confidence is back. I was at the I meant to say that. I was at the football on Saturday. And we were talking about all this nonsense. And most people were saying they'd want Trump. But also, somebody said to me, God, you're like you used to be like 10 years ago. What's happened? I said, the mojo's back. And then I started telling the funny stories about working at the Sun and some things, which I can tell to one or two people, but I couldn't tell on here unless I wanted to be sued, even though they're true. I was just entertaining. And I haven't been like that for ages. And it's down to you lot backing me and supporting me and turning up at all times of day when I do a show. So thank you. Really, I mean it so sincerely. Thank you. A year ago, I was talking to Stuart, a real old mate of mine. He's contributed as well. I won't say what he does, but what a job. But anyway, went out for a coffee with him in Coventry the other day. And we worked together a long, long time ago doing things. He's not in media or whatever. And he said, you're back, aren't you? I said, what do you mean? He said, well, you're telling all the funny, rude stories and everything, and you're just performing. I said, yeah. And I can't tell you what difference that is to me. And every time I do one of these, I feel better. I feel incredible. I know it's a bit arrogant as well sometimes, but that comes with the territory. I could be like Starmer and just read a script like this. Not very inspirational, is it? Anyway, shut up. You got kids, give them a kiss, give them a hug. Don't forget to tell them you love them, and tell everybody that you're listening to John Gaunt TV, or you're listening on the podcast on Apple, wherever you're getting them from. Spread the word. I'm still laughing at that Lord Alley joke that the guy put up, but I can't mention it. See you later. All the best. God bless.